Good evening, this is BelGeode, and we are back with some more X-Plane 11. Howdy folks, so we are back here at Wasior Airport, and our task is to grab some passengers, most notably these kind folk here, and we're going to take them back to the island, or the peninsula, I should say, that we were at before with the Raven. So that would be Teluk, I forget what the second word is, Chandrawisa or Chandrawise, I don't know. I have no clue how to pronounce it, so I'm gonna stop butchering it now. But yeah, suffice to say, we are gonna have a nice packed flight for our way back. Alright, so while my virtual passengers are loading up here, I am gonna make my way back to the cockpit, and we'll get this bird ready to fly. So yeah, once again, this aircraft is the DDenn Design's Grumman Goose, and it is rapidly becoming one of my favorite aircraft. I gotta say, I really love the Goose. Okay, so now that I am in my seat, I guess the first thing I need to do is turn on the other battery. I've got one battery going because, as you can see back there, I've got the light. Well, you might not be able to see it because there's that little low-hanging area for baggage, I think. So, yeah, you won't see it. Alright, do have the generator. I'll need to turn that on. There we go. Okay, and gas. What are we looking like here? Not too shabby on that side. What about this side? Not too shabby on that side as well. Okay, good deal. So let's get our avionics on. Alright, now, before I go any further, I might remind you that both this airport and the airport that we're ultimately heading to, neither of them are in the GPS. So that means we can't use the GPS to help us navigate our way back to Teluk Beach. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our heading bug to the proper direction that I will need to have it in order to get to Teluk Beach. And how I'm going to accomplish that is by opening up the default X-Plane map. Ta-da! Okay, so you can see where we are right now at Whiskey Alpha Sierra Whiskey. And we're going to be going to Whiskey X-Ray Tango Charlie, which is just to the southeast of where we are. So it sounds like if I put in a heading of about 135, that should be good enough to go. However, we've also got some pretty steep mountains here that we're going to need to negotiate. But I have a plan for that, so we're going to do this. Alright, so we'll close the map. There we go. And we'll set our little heading bug. So what did I say? 135. That's 130 there. That's about 138. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be fine. Okay, now let me get our transponder on. No time to waste. Might as well just set it to alt. We'll get our lights. So nav lights, beacon lights, because we're going to get ready to start the engine really soon. Alright, I'm pretty sure my passengers should have all been boarded by now, so let's go ahead and lock our cabin door. Okay, so now that we have our cabin door locked, let's get ready to start up the engine. So I want my fuel levers to full on both. And as usual, we're going to start with the right side engine. So clear prop. There we go. I love the little puffs of smoke that come out every time you start the engine. That is really freaking cool. Alright, and let's get our left engine up. You guys might want to be careful out there because this could get loud and possibly deadly. Clear prop. Very nice. Got our puffs of smoke. We're good to go there. All right. I am loving it. Let's check our engine gauges here. Okay, carb heat does not need to go on just yet, but as soon as that temperature drops, we might want to think about putting it on. But for now, we should be okay. I am going to need to have flaps set to 30. Because this is a pretty short runway, and we need all the help we can get to go airborne. Okay, let's get our taxi lights on while we're at it. And since we're pretty much at the runway's end, we might as well get the landing lights on as well. Alright, quick check outside. Okay, everything looks good, our people are loaded, and we are ready to go. So, I'm gonna need to give it a hard right rudder. And we're going to spool up, get the brakes off. This is going to be the turn of a century here, folks. There we go, runway 36. Man, every taxi should be this easy. Alright, I can barely see over the nose here, but I want to say we are lined up just about right. Alright, let's put the brakes back on. One quick final check to make sure everything is looking good. Okay, we got our heading bug set. Alright. Everything looks good, except I need my carb heat on. So we'll go ahead and turn that on real quick. There we go. And we'll leave that on for the duration of the flight because the temperature has cooled a little bit, so I'm pretty sure that we're going to need to have the carb heat on. Alright, I don't know about you folks, but I think we're ready. I'm going to go ahead and close this window. And since this is a tail dragger, we probably don't want to go brakes down, throttles up, so get the throttle up halfway. Alright, good enough for me. Before the tail gets off the ground, we'll take the brakes off. And I'm waggling all over the place. Lovely. Okay, we are just past stall speed, and there we go. We are airborne. Good deal. Okay, let's get the gear and flaps up, and we'll do that from the outside. Alright, now comes the fun part. So yeah, we've got this lovely mountain to our right here that we're going to need to navigate over before we can think about going on course. So I'm thinking how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a nice shallow turn to the left while gaining altitude. You can see we're at 1,500 feet per minute right now. I'm going to try and see if I can hold that. And then we'll fly over the town of Wasior, make our way up that mountain. And as you can tell, it's late afternoon. We should be able to get to Teluk Beach before sunset, or at least that is my hope. See how well that all works out. Those clouds are really looking pretty. We can thank SkyMax Pro for that. Alright, so there's our airport. And I think I see a little bit of a notch in the mountains there, so I'm going to use that as my direction. And if I remember correctly, I'm probably going to need to get over 6,000 feet. Right now, we are just over 2,000 feet, so we got a little ways to go. But yeah, say goodbye to the town of Wasior and you can barely see the airport where we were parked. Pretty cool stuff. I'm really proud of how this came out. This actually looks really neat. Alright, I'm sure we'll be back at some point in time, but I most likely will not feature it in another episode. And hey, there's our little guy in a helicopter. We didn't catch him last time, but we can sure see him now. He's just flying around, minding his own business. So yeah, you continue doing you, sir. Alright, Heading Bug says we are currently on course. I anticipate it's probably going to take us about 15-20 minutes to get there. However, right now is going to be the most time-consuming part, and that is getting up to cruise altitude. Once we get to cruise altitude, I can just simply turn on the altitude hold and the heading hold, and that should hold us in place. But for now, let's take a quick look outside. Okay, so it looks like we are just about at the level of the peaks. So I called that one right. It's about 6,000 feet. We're gonna go a little bit higher than that. We'll take it up to maybe about 6,500, and I'm sure that should be able to get us over the top of this mountain ridge here. But this is what I was waiting for. The clouds are just low enough that they're kind of nestled in between the mountain peaks. I love this stuff. Needless to say, it looks a little bit better in VR with SkyMax Pro than it does with the default clouds. But with that having been said, I still would love to see X-Plane take on things like True Sky. I think that would be pretty awesome. Don't ask me how they were going to pull it off, but if they could, I think that would really put the clouds over the top. Alright, we're closing in on 7,000, so here's my plan. We are going to get our autopilot on. And we'll see if we can tag us at 7,000 feet. Okay, altitude hold is on, and heading hold is on. Gotta wait till it trims itself out here. The little trim knob, by the way, is right there at the side of the seat. Oh, look at that. That is downright gorgeous. Let's take a quick look outside. Gotta say, I really love this Grumman Goose. Such an awesome little aircraft. And that's one thing I will say about DDenn Designs. I have yet to see a bad aircraft from him. Everything that he makes just has like a lot of love put into it, a lot of little extra features that I find really helps as far as getting into the immersion of flying this aircraft. So yeah, between this and the Republic CB, for example, and some of the other ones like the Challenger, which I've showed off before, in one of the earlier episodes of X-Plane 11. All of that stuff is just wonderful. If it has a DDenn name on it, you can be guaranteed that it is pretty dang good. Alright, so here's the other bay here. Now, there's a mountain range directly ahead. Just past that mountain range is going to be Teluk Beach. So as soon as we get over the top of that, we'll be dropping back down to our approach altitude, or pattern altitude, and that should be good to go. So what's been going on in the world of X-Plane? Well, I'm not sure if you are aware, but as of the time of this recording, which should be in mid-December of 2017, Laminar Research has begun selecting candidates for the private beta test of the 11.20 build. The 11.20 build, I might remind you, is the build that will be bringing native VR to X-Plane 11. So as soon as the internal testing is done, it will then, of course, go to the public test server where just about anybody who has an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive or any of the other newer ones that are out on the market now can test it with native VR. This is the moment that I have been waiting for. So, of course, what does that mean for good old FlyInside, which I'm currently using? Well, as soon as native VR has been finalized, hammered out, and is good to go in X-Plane, I will no longer be using FlyInside for X-Plane. Don't get me wrong, though, I still need FlyInside for FSX, so I will continue to use it there, although we probably won't see too many VR videos due to the fact that it utilizes so many resources, and I actually run the risk of having an out-of-memory error. I have yet to figure out a way to optimize that so that I can prevent that sort of thing from happening, but if I try to use any aircraft or fly over any scenery that taxes pretty much a lot of resources, yeah, it's just end badly. That's all I can tell you. But as far as X-Plane 11 goes, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they will have done with native VR. And I'm hoping that they'll incorporate some of the suggestions that I've asked people to contribute. Bear in mind, however, I did not volunteer to be a beta tester. Unfortunately, at this time of the year, I don't have time to do any of that. I've got so much stuff on my plate between my day job and, of course, making YouTube videos and so on that I just don't have the time to dedicate to actually beta testing a product complete with all the feedback and, you know, the actual testing. So yeah, I'll try not to cry too much about that. But whomever does get the opportunity to beta test the product, I sincerely hope that you do us proud. Alright, I am starting to see our islands here. So, I'm thinking now would be a good time to take it off of Autopilot, and we're going to swing out to the left a little bit here. So just bear with me. I need to get around this cloud. And I'm also going to start us on a decent little descent here. So yeah, this is pretty much a short hop. A lot shorter than our trip out there, only because for our trip out there I really didn't want to get too high up and I actually wanted to go around the terrain. Now it doesn't really matter all that much, so I'm okay with flying overhead. Okay, I'm pulling the throttle back now and I'll drop us down to about 1,500 feet per minute descent. And there you can see the little private island where the owner of this Grumman Goose lives. That's the island to the left. The one to the right is uninhabited. And peeking out from the clouds off to the right there is Teluk Beach. There we go. We're almost down, folks, just like that. And I'm going to steer us more towards the little island there. And then we'll take a quick look from outside. Alright, let's check our engines really quick here. Carb heat's looking okay. Cylinder head temperature's nice and cool. Oil nice and cool. Oil pressure looks nominal. Okay, everything looks good. Right over there, you can see Teluk Beach. That is our final destination. So we're going to swing out a little bit to the right here. Continue losing some more altitude. I've actually brought us down to about 2,000 feet per minute. So we're at about 2,500 feet off of sea level right now. See all the nifty little yachts over by the beach. Now there's actually two beaches that I set up there. I did a few modifications to this Teluk scenery. So the far side beach we really haven't seen and probably won't see too much of. Maybe I'll show it in the closing credits when I do the little photo montage there. And then of course there's the closer beach, which I modified the way that the people are standing on there just so that they're actually on the beach and not like in the forest. So there's a little island that we got the Goose. You can see the little house and the sailboat right there. And there's our sea lane. So cool. I love working in WED and just modifying stuff or making stuff completely from scratch. Always adds an extra level of excitement for me when doing these kinds of videos. Or even when I'm flying and not recording anything, because honestly I do a lot more of that than I do anything else. Alright, what's our speed? About 160 knots. I'm going to go ahead and drop flaps 1. That'll slow us down a little bit here. And of course we're going to balloon. Now you can see the gear light is on, which indicates that at our current throttle position, we should have our gear down. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see if I can sneak a peek out there. Can't really tell. I'll have to open the window. Alright, what is the verdict? Okay, gear is down and locked. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so there is the far side of the beach. And there's the near side of the beach. I thought about putting like some little hotels in there, but a little too much work right now. I'm gonna drop our flaps one more setting. So full flaps. And we'll get ready to bring this bird home. And watch out for the pigs. Okay, now would probably be a good time for us to make our turnaround. What's our altitude? 600 feet. Alright, that should be fine, so let's go ahead and swing her around. I also swapped out the trees this time around. Remember I told you that I was using Realist Forest Mod? I still am, except I took out the smaller trees and put back in the default taller trees. I wanted to see what this approach would be like, coming in with taller trees. I might actually regret doing that, but one thing that I've noticed is when we have the larger trees being spawned in X-Plane, a lot of the times it's a little bit easier on resource because just from a physical standpoint, you can't fit the same amount of trees as you would with the smaller ones. So yeah, I've noticed that my FPS is a lot better now. Alright, but there's our runway. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. We are coming in to land. wanting to stall just yet. Although I am going to take it down to about the stall warning. Okay, we're at 200 feet. Yeah, we're going to need to skim the tops of those trees, and I need to watch out for them pigs, too, so... Here we go. Piggies, where are you? There you are, I see you. Okay. I think we cleared all the pigs. Nice. Just like that, we are down. It's a little bit bumpy because this is a gravel runway. It's neither asphalt nor concrete. So we're probably going to end up stopping before the runways end, but that is fine because that'll give me the opportunity to bring the flaps up. Alright, there we go. You can see the little sea lane for this airport. If we wanted to, we could have brought it in on the water, but I didn't think that was necessary. And will you look at that? Hey, so this is all the cargo that we brought here in the Raven. So apparently they now have proper taxi lights. That's pretty cool. And it looks like we got a bunch of people on the beach as well too, so that's always fun. Alright, I'm gonna kill our landing light real quick here. Leave the taxi light on. And I'm thinking we're going to park closer to the building, so that way these folks on board can get off. Since the other side is going to be reserved for the Raven, you can't see it right now, but we'll just chalk it up to the Raven being used by somebody else right now. We'll get it back for the next episode, because we're going to be going inland, and we're going to start landing on some of these really short mountain strips. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Alright, but first let's find a good parking spot and get rid of these people. Alrighty folks, welcome back to Teluk Beach. We are here. So now we can power everything down, get our passengers off, and we should be good to go. Alright, carb heat, we'll turn you off. There we go. And engines, power you down. And we'll get our lights off. We'll leave the nav lights on since the battery is going to be on. But we'll turn off one of the two batteries and, of course, our generator. Avionics, we'll also get rid of you. Okay, so I sincerely hope that you all enjoyed this little flight. Like I said, it was just a short hop to get us back here so that we can continue on our journey with the Raven in the next episode and continue exploring Papua New Guinea. I've got about 3 or 4 airports that I've modified that I would like to show you before I am done with the whole Papua area, and then we can move on to something else in X-Plane. I realize I haven't done a lot of helicopter type stuff just yet, but that's part of the reason why we're taking the Raven inland, because a couple of the airports that I want to show you, we're going to want to access them by helicopter. It's going to be really cool. Alright, but other than that, I want to thank you as always for watching. This has been BelGeode. I have been flying in X-Plane 11.05. I'm still not using X-Plane 0.10 until FlyInside is able to work with it. Unfortunately, I still haven't been able to solve my issues with that. But that's okay. I can deal with it. In any event, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I will be back with another episode and with our beloved Raven. Alrighty, folks, I will talk to you all later. Ciao!